What do we know about life after life? The reason we should all be asking ourselves that question is because none of us are getting out of this place alive. Sooner or later, you and I are going to have our bodies lowered into the grave. So what happens then? What happens after that? What's waiting for us behind the final curtain? Some people say that there's nothing behind the curtain except for a dead end. Brick wall, that's it. We say, no, it's not a brick wall, it's a door. And that door opens to allow our spirit to move into a different world. Because your spirit lives on. There are two parts of us, right? There's the body, and then there's the spirit. When the body dies, the spirit does not die. The spirit lives. A good analogy of that would be a hand in a glove, like this. It's the hand that makes the glove work. When we remove the body, the hand is like the spirit. This dies, this does not die. We know what happens to this. What happens to this? Okay, where does it go? What happens when it enters into that new world? What's beyond there? Has anyone ever come back to tell us, to give us a clue? Well, in the play Hamlet speaks of death and calls it the undiscovered country from whose boundary no traveler returns. Well, that may be true to some degree, but has anyone ever come back? Has anyone come back to tell us and give us light and understanding, maybe even just cracking the door a bit to tell us what's in that next world? After we get rid of this, what goes on then? There are two stories, marvelous stories, that I want to share with you about Jedediah M. Grant. Jedediah usually went by Jedi, and he tells this wonderful story. He was an apostle and a counselor to Brigham Young. He died at a very young age. He died at 40 years old in 1856. And shortly before his death, Jedi was allowed to visit the spirit world 2 nights in succession, and then came back and told a friend, Heber C. Kimball, what he saw. Now, before I share that story with you, you have to hear the backstory. We have to go back 9 years earlier, back to 1847. We're at the Sweetwater River in Wyoming. Jedi, his wife Caroline, and their little baby Margaret are on their way into the Salt Lake Valley. Cholera has broken out in the camp, and little baby Margaret will die of cholera. Caroline weeps and struggles with deep sorrow. The baby is just buried just off the trail near the Sweetwater in just this little shallow grave. And in spite of the sobbing and the weeping and the sorrowing, the camp has to move on. Weeks later, it's now September 26th, 1847, and Caroline, due to the loss of her baby, is growing weaker. It's the Sabbath day. There is no preaching, there is no singing, because that day is dedicated to fasting and prayer for Caroline. That night around midnight, Caroline will call Jedediah to her side as she is sinking toward death. And she said to him, "Please take me to the valley, Jedi, and then get Margaret and bring her to me." Brother Grant tenderly and through his sobs says to her, "Caroline, I will do my best. I will do my best." The next morning they set off for the Salt Lake Valley, where he will keep his promise, and Caroline, only 29 years old, will be buried in the valley. The first woman that we know of, white woman that we know of, that was buried in the valley. The day after the funeral, Jedediah will take one of his dear friends, Joseph Bates Noble, who went by the name of Bates, They continue down the trail in search of the grave. In the words of Bates, we step forward now, carrying the little box and shovels as we notice the place of the grave. A few paces from the little grave, we stopped hesitatingly, set down our things, and stood with eyes fixed before us. Neither tried to speak. An ugly hole replaced the small mound, and so recently had the wolves departed that every sign was fresh before us. Like statues of the wilderness we stood, grown to the spot, each fully realizing that nothing more could be done. And after several minutes of silent tears, we quietly withdrew, carrying away again only that which we had brought. They turned their eyes and headed back to the valley without little Margaret in their arms. Now we're going to jump forward now, 9 years later. It is now 1856, and Jedediah M. Grant is dying. His friend, Heber C. Kimball, also a member of the First Presidency, will come by to visit him shortly before his death. He said that as he came upon Jedediah was struggling even to breathe. He said, I laid my hands on him and I blessed him so that he was able to sit up and breathe easier. And then after several minutes, he said to me, Brother Heber, I have been into the spirit world 2 nights in succession, and of all the dreads that ever came across me, the worst was to have to again return to my body, though I had to do it. Heber went on to say that Jedediah saw the righteous gathered together in the spirit world. There were no wicked spirits among them. And he saw his wife. She was the first person who came to him. She came to him and he said she looked beautiful and had their little child who died on the plains in her arms and said, Mr. Grant, here is little Margaret. You know that the wolves ate her up, but it did not hurt her. Here she is all right. That brings me, and I hope you, such comfort and hope to know of what's coming, what awaits us, and the loved ones, the righteousness, the peace that is waiting for us in the spirit world. In this life, there are sorrows. There is pain, there is unhappiness, there's death. But there is a great world to come. In coming videos, we'll share with you even additional insights from people who have gone over, crossed over, and come back and shared with us what they have seen. For now, it's a peace and a comfort to know that those farewells that we have in this life will all be replaced with homecomings in the next one.